Welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon Register, and y'all know how much I love real estate. We talk real estate just about every weekend. Love talking real estate. There's always something going on with the market, with getting a loan, with home ownership, legislative issues, regulatory issues. There's always something to talk about. I've never had a problem on a Sunday coming up with something to talk about. But today, I am taking a break from real estate. You know, sometimes I do that. I find things I'm passionate about and then start rattling off about it. So this weekend, I'm talking about suicide prevention because September is Suicide Prevention Month. And, you know, if you follow me on Facebook, I've posted things about this because I want to make sure that everyone has the 1-800 number. We talked last segment about this being a 1-800 number for veterans in crisis, but it's actually a 1-800 number that works nationwide for anyone in a crisis situation, anyone who has suicidal thoughts, and they can help you plug in locally to an organization that can help you. That number is 1-800-273-8255. If you're a veteran, you can press 1 where they focus more on veterans, but if you're not a veteran, that's okay. Kids, anybody can call this number. So I want to make sure you have that number. I think it's a really important topic for us to discuss today. It's kind of near and dear to my heart because I'm married to a veteran, and so veterans are very near and dear to my heart. And we have just an alarming rate of veterans that are having suicide issues, and that just really bothers me. But in addition to that, you know, I have a son with mental illness. He has struggled with it for years, and he's doing really well now, which is wonderful. But you know, there have been times in my life where I've worried about his safety in the future, and especially during those teen years when teens don't know how to handle issues. They come up and then they think they're huge problems and they don't know how to handle them, and they think that suicide's the only way out. I know I have a friend whose son died of suicide, and she said the letter he left her, the note he left, didn't make any sense. The issues that he died over were stupid issues to her. You know, she said it was just pointless. It was so wrong. And, you know, and it just comes down to he thought it was insurmountable. It wasn't insurmountable. He thought it was insurmountable for whatever reason. And so, you know, I really want to make sure that everyone has the 1-800 number. Because even if this is a number you can call, even when you think you have a child with this issue or a spouse with this issue, they can still help you get them help that they need. Because you need help too when you have someone who's telling you they're thinking about this. We want to make sure that you get the right help for you and your loved ones as well. So Kathy Molitor is here. She's a licensed clinical social worker who has served as a suicide prevention coordinator at the medical center here in Houston for the last 7 years, and she's worked as a social worker at the VA for 19 years. So this is near and dear to your heart too, huh? I'm very passionate about it, Shannon, and just hearing you give your personal examples, I think brings back what a tragedy it is and how much there is we can do to help people through these what seems like ridiculous crisis to us. If we can just kind of hang on to them, let them know we'll be with them, we'll get them through it. Mm-hmm. We've gone a long way towards probably a pretty good outcome. So you were telling me earlier that the ages from 15 to 20 years old? From 15 to 24 years old, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And then the next older age group, 25 to 34, also the second leading cause of death. And that's a lot of our young veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. That's their age group. That's exactly where they fall. And our high school students, that's our high school students as well. I mean, that 15 to 24 range, that's our high schoolers. And, you know, I hope that, you know, our counselors in our high schools really, I mean, they've got a tough job. And I hope that they're able to tune into these kids and see the warning signs, because what a tragic loss. You know, it doesn't just affect a family and a high school. It goes much farther beyond that. Exactly. The high schools are doing a good job. And it's kind of what we do. We try to train everybody to look for signs and symptoms, look for that hopelessness, look for that, you know, reckless behavior, that they're not caring what goes on, and ask a few more questions, and eventually have the courage to ask, I'm concerned, have you had any suicidal thoughts? You would be surprised. I mean, people think that they shouldn't ask that question because that might actually plant the idea in a person's head, but that's not true at all. All it does is give somebody a chance to talk about how they're really feeling. And I find when I ask it, either it's an, oh, no, I'm really not, or there's a yes answer at the other end of that. And somebody's finally asking them, and somebody's finally reaching that point that they're really at. And if someone does confide in their spouse or a friend, what should they do? Should they call the crisis line and talk to them?
That would be a good start. Yep.
Okay.
That not keeping it a secret is a good thing, and like we both talked about, people they don't want you to tell anyone. Well, no, this is serious. I care about you, and we'll find the right person to tell.
I mean, it only takes a split second, and it's too late.
And a call to that line is confidential, and a lot of times I get the call the next day, and there's so many things I can just lay out in front of that person that are possibilities, and then they can just really look at the menu that we've just talked about and what sounds right for you. And if it doesn't sound right to you, want some time, I'll call you back. And who in your life is your supportive person? Who are some people you can count on, and really help them just look at the whole situation and maybe find some places for hope.
So what are some questions to ask if you feel like there's someone in your life, someone you're connected to that you feel like has a problem? What are the right questions to ask that are helpful?
Good. The first thing is just listening. I think we probably want to give somebody a lot of advice when they're at that point, but listening and validating, because it is how they feel. Even if they shouldn't be feeling that guilty, or even if they shouldn't be feeling that hopeless, it is how they feel.
Yeah, and so it's their perspective.
Exactly.
And you can't necessarily change that.
Mm-hmm. And then when you validate that, you can get a lot farther in talking, asking a few more questions. And if somebody is feeling suicidal, then we need help right away. If somebody already has a plan, the next question is, have you thought about what you might do? Mm-hmm. If they have gone that far, that's an extra step of thinking. Then we really need to focus on the suicidal crisis more probably than the issues that are causing that one person. And that's when, if you don't know what to do yet, that 1-800 number is a good place to start.
Okay.
No matter where you are, no matter what time it is, there is somebody at the end of that line that can give you some ideas for where they can go for help.
Okay, so that number, it's confidential to talk, and there's also a texting line as well, right?
A texting and a chat room.
Okay, all right. So if somebody feels more comfortable texting than talking, they text this number or a different number?
Well, actually, I didn't bring it with me, but there is a 6-digit number.
Okay, 6-digit number. Okay, so it's probably on the website.
Right. If you go to the, even just put in suicide. At one time, a veteran had called with a suicide method that he had in mind, and so later, out of curiosity, I thought, well, let me look that up. First thing I got was a suicide hotline. I was, yay, that's good.
That's good. It's working.
Don't help me with my research here. Keep me safe.
So the veterans that you guys have been able to help, are they mostly male or female? Or do you...
Well, obviously, right now, females only make up about 10% of the military. So obviously, we have many, many more males. And interestingly enough, men's rate of suicide, men in general, is take their lives at nearly 4 times the rate of women.
Do you think that that's because they're more effective at it?
It is the means they choose, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Because a lot of women will overdose and it doesn't work. So,
And then guns, 50% of the suicides in the United States are by guns. Veterans, that rate is much higher, 68%, because obviously all of our veterans have been trained to use a gun.
Right.
But kind of disturbing, the women's rate has gone up dramatically. Within the last few years, it's gone up 40%.
Wow. So we're on a rise. I mean, we're increasing every year, not decreasing. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
Well, we actually put the numbers in relation to the numbers of veterans we're seeing for those who are in care at our facility, and that did have a lot. We kept proportional because we're seeing more and more people. Why the numbers? I don't know. We would have to look at those numbers on a per 100,000 basis, and they're not quite as dramatic as just the number increase.
So does the length of time in the military have any impact? I mean, does it matter if you were in for 3 years or 15 years? Does that matter?
No, it doesn't seem to matter.
And does it matter whether you ever went to combat or didn't go to combat?
Well, less than half of the veterans in our care, we always look at, in depth at who did die by suicide that was in our care, and less than half of them have been to combat. So that is not necessarily the biggest indicator. Definitely that adds a lot of stressors,
right.
But we want to keep our eyes open and look for everybody.
Okay, so the underlying issue for people who feel these feelings of being suicidal, I guess, what is the underlying issue? Is it lack of self-worth?
The 2 biggest diagnoses we see is depression and substance abuse. Now, whether the substance abuse was a result of trying to cope with the depression, those are 2 huge things, and 2 things that people should look for. Okay. Really big, alcohol and drugs become a and make it more likely that some behavior will occur.
And do most of them suffer from PTSD?
Not the highest diagnosis. It's less than half of the depression.
A lot of people want to say people who are suicidal, they suffer from PTSD, but that's not the case. A lot of times it has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. It's really more about depression.
And depression stems from all sorts of things. Okay. And unfortunately, as great a healthcare system as we have, we still haven't found a great way to combat depression. I mean, there's all these drugs on the market, and you talk to doctors about different things, but they really, I don't think they know enough.
Yeah. Well, and I do hear and see all the time that a medication has made a huge impact. And when a wife of a veteran says, "Oh yeah, he is so much better since he started this medication," well, that's a huge jump. But there's a lot of treatment for either depression or PTSD.
You just have to find the one that works.
Exactly. And it takes time and it takes commitment. And when you're trying to raise a family or go to school or be in relationships, it takes a major commitment.
Yeah, it's hard to fit that in. And I know from my own life and people that I've known with depression, it's fine. They suffer for years, and then sometimes they'll have a break. Like you said, a drug works or treatment works, something works, and then they do really well after that. So I think that's sticking to it, finding something that does work, because you have to try different things till you find something that works.
Exactly.
And then sticking to it.
The number of times I hear, I tried that, or I tried that, but the side effect, a sexual side effect, or some other side effect, and they couldn't tolerate it. We can keep trying. There's a whole lot out there, and there's more than the last time they tried.
So don't give up.
Exactly.
Never give up, right? We all have a lot to do in this lifetime. Don't give up. All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Some great information from Julianne Mullane. I'm going to my wrong notes here. From Kathy Molitor from the VA Center down in Houston. And I know you guys help a lot of veterans down there, and we really appreciate the work that you're doing. And one more time, I'm going to give that crisis number. And again, this is not just for veterans. It's for anyone in crisis, 1-800-273-8255. We appreciate you coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back here on Houston Real Estate Radio.